Removing and replacing parts. HP 251-000 desktop PC.
Tools you need. To remove and replace parts in this device, you should ideally have the following tools on hand: an anti-static wrist strap, a Phillips screwdriver, a flat-bladed pry tool, long-nose pliers, a flathead screwdriver, a Torx screwdriver, a triangular pry tool, a pair of tweezers, thermal grease and cleaning alcohol, a suction cup, a cuticle stick, a SIM tray eject pin.
How to replace the access panel. Removal.
To remove the access panel, first loosen the captured Torx head screw at the rear of the panel that connects the panel to the PC. Grasp the handle on the panel and pull towards the back of the PC to release the panel. Pull the panel away from the PC.
Replacement.
The access panel has several tabs on its top, bottom, and leading edges, which fit into slots, and over the front lip of the PC. There is also a small slot on the rear of the panel that slides over a security loop on the rear of the PC. To reattach the panel, align the tabs on the panel over their corresponding slots on the PC. Then slide the panel forward to lock it into position. Tighten the captured Torx head screw to secure the panel to the PC.
How to replace the optical drive.
To remove the optical drive, first remove the access panel.
Removal.
Some units will have a Torx head grounding screw for the optical drive data cable on the chassis metal above the hard drive bays. Detach this screw if present. Detach the power and data cables from the back of the drive. Note that the SATA data cable has a latch that must be pressed to free the cable. Press on the green drive release latch at the rear of the drive, then slide the optical drive forward and out of the PC.
Replacement.
If replacing the optical drive, separate the green drive release latch from the old optical drive by pulling it firmly off of the drive. The green drive release latch has 3 small pins on the inside edge. That fit into small holes on the slim optical drive. To install the latch on the drive, press the latch pins into their holes on the new drive. To replace the optical drive, align the drive into its bay with the green drive release latch aligned toward the bottom of the unit. Slide the drive until the green drive release latch snaps into place. Replace the SATA power and data cables to the rear of the drive. If the unit has an optical drive data cable with a grounding screw attachment, feed the grounding cable through its access hole on the chassis metal above the upper hard drive bay. Secure the grounding loop with a Torx head screw to the chassis metal.
How to replace the wireless LAN board.
To remove the wireless LAN board, first remove the access panel.
Removal.
Carefully snap off the wireless antenna connectors from the board. Remove the Phillips No. 1 screw for the board. The board will pop up. Remove the board.
Replacement.
The wireless LAN board has a notch on its socket edge. that fits over a tab in its motherboard socket. To replace the wireless LAN board, angle the board into its socket at a 30-degree angle. Hold the board down while you replace its Phillips No. 1 screw. Replace the wireless antenna connectors to the card.
How to replace the hard drive.
To remove the 3.5-inch hard drive from the bottom hard drive bay, first remove the access panel.
Removal.
Some units will have a Torx head grounding screw for the hard drive data cable on the side of the hard drive bay. Detach the screw if it is present. Next, remove the power and data connectors from the side of the drive. Note that the SATA data connector has a latch that must be pressed to remove the connector. Detach the 3 or 4 remaining Torx head screws that secure the hard drive to its bay in the PC. Units that have a grounding cable will have already removed the 4th screw. Slide the drive out of its bay and pull it out of the unit.
Replacement.
There is a ledge on the bottom of the hard drive bay that the hard drive rests on when installed in the unit. To install the 3.5-inch hard drive, slide the drive into its ledge in the drive bay, spindle side out, until the screw holes on the drive align with the screw holes stenciled A on the drive bay. Replace the 4 Torx head screws to secure the drive to the cage, unless the unit has a grounding cable on the data cable. In these units, leave the lower right screw hole empty until after connecting the data cable to the drive. Replace the SATA power and data connectors to the side of the drive. Make sure the SATA data connector is routed behind the power connector bundle and between the power connector cables before attaching to the hard drive. If the unit has a hard drive data cable with a grounding screw attachment, secure the grounding loop with a Torx head screw to the drive bay in the lower inside corner screw hole for the drive bay. For systems with a grounding loop that do not have a micro ATX motherboard, route the excess tail of the grounding tail cable into the hole on the bottom of the hard drive cage.
How to replace the system memory.
To replace system memory, first remove the access panel.
Removal.
For units with DDR3 DIMM system memory, simultaneously push down on the clips on either side of the DDR3 DIMM socket to release the memory module. Carefully pull out the memory module.
Replacement.
For units with SODIMM system memory, gently pull out on the retaining lever located on each side of the SODIMM memory module. The module will pop up from its socket. Pull the module out of the socket. There is one notch on the bottom of every DDR3 DIMM module, offset from the center, that fits over a tab in the DDR3 DIMM memory socket. When installing DDR3 DIMMs, align the notch on the module with the tab in the socket. Press the module straight down into the socket until the clips on both sides of the socket lock into place. There is also a small notch on one side of each SODIMM memory module that aligns over a small tab in each SODIMM socket on the motherboard. To replace an SODIMM memory module, angle the module to about 30 degrees, engaging the notch into its socket tab. Press the edge of the module down into place until the retaining levers snap into position over the sides of the module.
How to replace the system fan.
To remove the system fan, first remove the access panel.
Removal.
Detach the fan connector to the motherboard. Remove the 3 Phillips No. 2 screws at the rear of the PC that secure the fan in the system. Keep your hand on the fan as you remove the last screw and pull the fan out of the unit.
Replacement.
There is a hole on the top corner of the system fan that aligns over a small post on the inside rear wall of the PC. To replace the system fan, position the fan so it is blowing outward. An arrow stenciled on the fan indicates the direction of airflow. Align the hole of the fan over its post, and align the screw holes of the fan with the screw holes on the rear of the PC. Secure the fan to the rear of the PC with its 3 Phillips No. 2 screws. Reattach the fan connector to the motherboard.
How to replace the main bezel.
To remove the main bezel, first remove the access panel.
Removal.
Unlatch the 3 side tabs of the main bezel. And rotate the bezel away from the PC.
Replacement.
The main bezel has 3 tabs on each side. Which fit into 6 slots on the PC. To replace the main bezel, align the tabs on the left side of the bezel into their slots on the PC. Then rotate the bezel into position. Snap it firmly into place.
How to replace the front I/O panel.
To remove the front I/O panel, first remove the access panel and the main bezel.
Removal.
Detach the front I/O connectors from the motherboard. Free the front I/O connectors from the large metal cable guide on the side wall of the PC. Peel off the RF fabric tape that helps secure the front I/O to the front of the unit. Detach the Torx head screw securing the front I/O to the front of the unit. Tilt up the bottom of the front I/O module, then pull the front I/O and its connectors out the front of the unit.
Replacement.
The front I/O module has a metal tab at its top edge that aligns under a notch at the top of the cutout for the front I/O at the front of the unit. To reinstall the front I/O panel, first feed in the connectors through the cutout at the front of the unit. Align the top tab of the front I/O panel under its notch on the chassis cutout, then press the bottom of the module into place. Secure the front I/O panel with its Torx head screw at the front of the unit. Replace the RF fabric tape along the left side of the front I/O panel. Replace the front I/O panel connectors into the large metal cable guide on the side wall of the PC. Reattach the front I/O panel connectors to the motherboard.
How to replace the power switch.
To remove the power switch, first remove the access panel and the main bezel.
Removal.
Detach the power switch connector from the motherboard. Remove any tape securing the power switch to the side wall of the PC. Remove the power switch cable from the cable guide on the side wall of the unit. Squeeze the left side of the power switch to disengage it from the front of the PC, then pull the power switch and its connector out the front of the unit.
Replacement.
The power switch housing has a flat tab on its right side that fits into a cutout on the front of the PC. The power switch housing also has a hooked tab on the left side that fits into a cutout on the PC. To replace the power switch, first feed the connector in through its access hole. Align the flat tab of the power switch housing into its cutout, then squeeze and press the left side hooked tab into place. Replace the power switch connector into the cable guide on the side wall of the PC. Secure the connector to the side wall with tape. In systems with a micro ATX board, the tape should be applied to the bulge on the side wall of the chassis. For systems with larger motherboards, loop the cable and tape the looped cable on the side wall above the motherboard and below the cable guide on the side wall. Replace the power switch connector to the motherboard.
How to replace the wireless LAN antennas.
To remove the wireless LAN antennas, first remove the access panel and the main bezel.
Removal.
Detach the wireless antennas from the wireless LAN board. Untape the antennas from the bottom of the power supply if an internal power supply is present in the unit. Untape the antennas from the side wall of the PC if a micro ATX motherboard is present in the unit. Remove the antennas from the small cable guide on the side wall of the unit. Remove the 3 pieces of adhesive tape securing the antennas to the front of the PC. Pull the antenna cables out through the access hole at the front of the unit. Remove the antenna connectors from their cable guides at the front of the unit. Detach the Torx head screw for each antenna and remove the antennas from the unit.
Replacement.
Each wireless antenna has a small hole on the antenna that fits over a locator peg on the front of the unit. To replace the antennas, place each antenna over its locator peg on the front of the unit and secure with a Torx head screw. Replace the antennas into their cable guides at the front of the unit. Feed the antenna cables in through the access hole into the unit. Replace the 3 pieces of adhesive tape that secure the antennas to the front of the unit. Place the antenna cables into the small cable guide on the side wall of the PC. If the unit has a micro ATX motherboard, secure the antennas to the bulge on the side wall of the PC with tape. Retape the antennas to the bottom of the power supply with adhesive tape if an internal power supply is present in the unit. Reconnect the antennas to the wireless LAN board.
How to restore CMOS factory settings.
CMOS factory settings should be restored as a first step before replacing the system motherboard. To restore CMOS factory settings, first remove the access panel. Remove the battery from the motherboard. Wait 30 seconds. Replace the battery to the motherboard. CMOS factory settings are now reset. Note that you will now need to enter System BIOS and reset the clock in BIOS after this procedure.
How to replace the motherboard.
To remove the motherboard, first remove the access panel. Remove any expansion cards if installed in the unit. Remove the wireless LAN board if present in the unit. Remove system memory. Remove the heatsink and the CPU if there is a removable CPU. If removing an Intel CPU, install a socket cover on the load plate window after removing the CPU, and replace the load plate over the CPU socket.
Removal.
You may also need to slide the optical drive partially forward. Detach all connectors to the motherboard. Remove the 4 or 8 Torx head screws that attach the motherboard to the chassis. Depending on the size of the motherboard, note that one screw must be accessed through a cutout in the bottom hard drive bay. Slide the motherboard toward the front of the unit, then tip the edge up and pull the motherboard carefully out of the unit. Place the motherboard in an anti-static bag.
Replacement.
To replace the motherboard, carefully place the motherboard back into the unit, clearing connectors away from underneath the board, and aligning the back panel connectors with their cutouts on the rear of the chassis. Reattach the 4 or 8 Torx head system screws, depending on the size of the motherboard, to secure the motherboard in the unit. Replace all system connectors to the board. Slide the optical drive back into position if it was partially removed.
Find more helpful videos on our HP Support YouTube channel.